She was first seen in her shed. Before she was then rolled outside under cover of darkness. But now, Gitana 18 is out in the open and afloat. And there's one thing that's clear. She's a weapon of a machine. A 32-metre foiling trimaran that has one goal in mind: to be the fastest offshore boat in the world. And when you drill down into the project, it's difficult to disagree. It's been several weeks since we first saw Gitana 18, and now she's been launched, and her team's preparing the next phase of their programme. But the road to record breaking is a long and complicated one, so we thought we'd take a look and find out more about how a team sets out to get the latest generation Ultim Tri up to speed. And to do that, we spoke to one of her designers, Sébastien Saisson, and her skipper, Charles Caudrelier. We also take a look at how Gitana 18 will fly in practical terms. Plus, with the boat now in the water, what's the process from here? But we start with Charles. Now, I'm lucky enough to have sailed a number of these giant trimarans, including her sister ship, Gitana 17. And I still really struggle to comprehend how a skipper ever gets their head in a place where they're happy to sail such a huge and potent machine alone across oceans and around the world. So, to try and get into his world, we asked what a 12-hour period aboard a boat flying at 40 knots looks and feels like to him, as well as how he got there in the first place.
For me, it's sailing single on it has always been natural, and I feel very comfortable. So I never think, okay, is it possible or not? For me, yes, it's possible, because I have that in my mind, how to manage a boat like that. It's just anticipation, think about the next maneuver, clean the boat every time, try to sleep. But it's the same game as on a small boat for me. Actually, when the first time I came on the boat, I say it's huge. And today, when I go on the boat, for me, it's not huge anymore. You adapt to the size of the boat. It's very impressive. And when you are alone, it's really special, because it's so fast, and the fact to fly is just amazing. I mean, it's something we did not imagine 10 years ago, and that it's just perfection. It looks like, for me, it's a perfect boat. You know, sometimes when you sail upwind, and it's a nightmare to sail upwind because it's slow, and with this boat you are sailing at 30 knots upwind. Even if there is sea states, the foils make like suspension. So it's only pleasure. Honestly, most of the time it's 100% of pleasure, which is not the case, when you are a sailor, that most of the time say, why I'm against offshore? So the big goal is to be stable in big sea states, which is not easy. When I'm alone, of course, the pilot is driving the boat most of the time, but you can set up the pilot also. So I spend a lot of time to play, because which is my target hill, which is my trim hill, which is my twin angle target, which is my boat speed target. I can adapt all these parameters and choose it for the performance. And then I trim the boat. So the sails, of course, but the sails you don't change a lot of trim, because your upper and wind angle is always the same. So and after you have to adapt the foils to the sea states, which takes a little. But the goal is that the boat is very auto-stable, because all the thing I want to change is with my power. So it's hydraulic. Most of the system are hydraulics, and I need to use my hands because I can't use electric power. So you have to be smart and find the best average trim, which is very complicated. So when I take the start of the Route du Rhum, people say, okay, he has a very good boat, but he has no experience about single on this big boat. I only did it on Figaro. For me, that was the same game. It was the same thing. And so I don't see so much difference, except that the boat is bigger and you have to anticipate more. You can't be late. If you don't anticipate, the size of the sails and everything, you can capsize. So you have to, that just, you sail with this pressure on your head, and that makes change a bit the game, but it's the same thing that Figaro. The goal is to find time to sleep, actually. That's the main goal. I need to sleep, and I need to sleep at the good moment. I need to be able to sleep fast, to feel asleep very fast, I need to take care of me. That's what you don't have to forget. That's really a big challenge for when you are alone. But I have no problem to go and sleep when the boat is at 40 knots because my boat is really safe and I have lots of system to ease the sails if needed, or the pilot is smart and can change the angle of the wind if there is some risk. So I feel safe. I've been doing it especially at the start of the Route du Rhum because I knew I was the favorite. I knew I have the best boat. I knew, so I trust my boat. I know it was reliable. So I hey, okay, it's my Olympic Games. I can be the weakest. So I need to prepare that. So I work with a mental guy to help me for this pressure that I have on my shoulders. And I also work with a guy who's doing apnea to be able to fall asleep very quickly, because that's the goal when you are alone. If you go, say, I have 10 minutes not to sleep, if you spend 8 minutes to fall asleep, you only sleep 2 minutes. So he helped me to breathe and to relax when I go to sleep and to forget that I'm in race, because you know it's very special. You are going to sleep, but you are racing. So it's very difficult to calm down.
Built in secrecy, the project has taken 50,000 hours to design and 200,000 hours to build. And when the covers came off, Gitana 18 took our breath away when the team revealed what they'd been up to. But now, as she was craned into the water in Lorient in front of a huge crowd, we could see more of what makes this boat so different to the current generation. For a start, her hulls are incredibly narrow and flat in the under sections. But one of the biggest changes to her underwater configuration are her foils and rudders. The team has released a fascinating animation that illustrates how the systems work. "11 knots of wind speed on a broad reach is enough to create a boat speed of 22 knots. Canting foil on the leeward side is lowered, rotating from the inside out. This places the foils further outboard than the current generation of Ultims, and as a result increases the righting moment. The effect? More power. Each foil can be operated independently to fine-tune the vertical and horizontal lift that they're generating. The central T-foil also provides lift. It's a common feature aboard the current generation. But the ability to cant this foil is new and provides more stability in flight. The vertical foil also has a trim tab. And then those rudders. The horizontal component acts just like a normal T-foil and provides lift. But the two vertical struts improve the rigidity when you compare it to a single rudder blade, which improves control and reduces weight. The difference is that steering is achieved through trim tabs on the trailing edge and not by rotating the foil. All the foils are hydraulically controlled, and as you can imagine, it's a complex system. The rig is special too. Raking the spreaders fore and aft allows the section depth of the mainsail to be controlled, which in turn extends the wind range of the sail for a given setting. Raking them aft flattens the sail. With the wind speed at 22 knots, Gitana 18 is launched and capable of hitting 55 knots. Big numbers and bold claims perhaps, but Team Gitana's long-term success in offshore racing and their undeniable reputation is what's driving such widespread interest in this boat. While nothing is for certain in this world, the chances are that this is no idle threat. So with the boat in the water, what's the process from here?
The first phase of the boat like that, when it goes on the water, is more about testing it. So we're going to do structural tests of the boat that we can't do in the yard. Meaning with the mast and all the strops, we're going to be pulling on the platform and trying to bring every part we can of the platform to its working load. To try and see if we don't have any problems or any parts that have been maybe laminated a bit incorrectly or anything, to make sure that when we go and sail for the first time, we are safe to sail and that all the boat is going to be safe and work as it should be.
I guess it will be about 15 days to 20 days, depending on the weather forecast, because unfortunately we are in winter and the wind are strong, and some tests it's impossible to do it during strong wind.
And then the second week would be about more doing all the commissioning, all the settings, meaning that the boat in the yard before it was launched had already all its systems and sensors, and we had jigs to be able to manipulate the systems. But once in the water, we really need to do all the setting of all those systems and all the calibration of all the systems to make sure they're really precise when we go sailing for the first time.
So it's a long process, so we need first to test all the masts. That will be the first thing we are going to do. But then we need also to test all the hydraulic systems. We have 44 rams on board. Each ram is commanded by a computer, so we need to do program for that. It's very important, and if we do a mistake, we can break the boat or damage the boat. So it will be a long process, probably 10 or 15 days of processing and testing, and to be sure, because there is also lots of safety system on the hydraulics, and we need to be sure they will work in case the load is too high or something happens.
New boats, they're much more complex. We have much more cylinders on board. We have much more electrical systems. And so obviously that brings us to have much more time to commission the boat. When I say commission, it means making all those hydraulic cylinders work, but with the electronics that work with them and that calibrate them, that give us the length of the cylinders, for example, the pressure loads, the fiber optics. So that's where we have a big phase, maybe the second week after the launch now, to be able to really set all those key points so that they are precise as we need them to, and they work. And that's maybe something that's a bit longer. So this commissioning phase is also a big phase where everyone in the team has to be working together, because obviously you're pulling, for example, with cylinders, so you have the hydraulic guys involved that are pulling on the mast, so you have to have the rig guys involved in the same time as all the electronic side that's piloting all of that. So it's a big part where we have to be really well organized between the different elements and parts and people in the team to be able to make all of this puzzle kind of work together.
This one is really special because this boat is just amazing. There is only 6-7 boats like this one flying boat, so we are very lucky. And it's also very special because that's the first time for me I'm involved from the A to Z, from the starting point to the. So it's for me, yes, sure, it's very special, and we also put lots of input, and I spend all my time with the designer to imagine this boat. So yes, it's very special for me for sure.
So yes, the Ultim class is getting obviously more and more pushy, and the development's bigger and bigger, and the boat's more and more, let's say, complicated, even if it's for the good side. So obviously it makes you have to push harder to be able to get the boats to go faster and find more complex maybe and more crazy ideas for something to be able to beat what was done previously. But I still think we're in the early phases of offshore flying today, even though we started with Gitana 17, the first offshore flying trimaran, and now we're on the second generation. I think really it's important to understand it's only finally the second generation of these big offshore flying trimarans. We always like in the Gitana team and to be the first to do things, so we were the first to fly, while we were the first to do a second generation boat. So obviously we had to push harder and to involve more complex systems, more complex designs, more complex appendages to be able to beat what we did before.
The long-term target as a Jules Verne, maybe. The short target is to be ready for the Rhodium because we want to be on the starting line and we want to try to win for sure. And then in 2 years will be the second time we do the Arkea Ultim Challenge, the race around the planet, and we will be on the start. So the big long-term challenge is in the next 2 years to be ready, to be reliable, to be able to race around the planet, which is a big challenge, only 2 years.
But as the Gitana team were preparing to wheel their machine into the open, the bar for the fastest lap of the planet was being raised, as Thomas Coville's Sedebo claimed a new time to take the Jules Verne trophy.
We knew that this flying boat can beat the record. We think we can do much better. It really depends on the weather forecast. They did an incredible job, but unfortunately the weather forecast was not so good. But at the end I managed beat the record because the boats are much faster. But we were very focused on finishing this boat and working on this boat. So.
Even though what we're doing now is a really new step into offshore boats and flying offshore with all those complex systems, those big appendages. And it's really a new generation of boats and a new generation of appendages. And I hope that everyone follows in the next years, because that would mean what we've tried to do now is going to work. So hopefully in the next few years we'll be followed.
And we know that it's just the beginning. It's only the second generation of boat, and we have many ideas to do much better, but it's a long-term process.